Good morning. I hope this video finds you well and enjoying the spring weather. A spring update today of our Audiophilia Dream List. I began this list as there were simply no updated best-of lists around. Of course, we can all defer to the great man's list, Harry Pearson's The Absolute Sound Super List. But Harry died 10 years ago, and the list hadn't been updated much before then. The last 10 years has seen explosive growth in vinyl, and hundreds, if not thousands, of top-class reissues, and many great originals now up for sale can be suggested for our readers to purchase. So about a year ago, my list was born. For the choices, you only have me to blame. My taste in music, repertoire, performances, and recordings. Some of these are replicated on Harry's list, but many not. So today, I'll show you a sample of the new 50 or so editions since my introductory Dream List video. I'll link that video below. As usual, the most important detail, especially with originals, is the pressing. You don't get a Dream List experience without the best pressing. I've curated a collection with the very best pressings I could find. This will be a brief intro to each chosen record, as I've discussed many of them in other videos. Safe to say, I love the music, performances, and sound of these records. For newer issues, check out the Elusive Disc or Chad's site, Acoustic Sounds. They usually have everything you'll want in stock. But for originals, it's eBay or Discogs, I'm afraid. But you may get lucky in a used bin. The actual hunt for originals is half the fun. Anyway, here they are. I'll talk very briefly about each of these. I'm going to start with the classical. This box in front of you is the classical editions in the last 6 months. Shows you how many great reissues there are. Most of these are reissues, some are originals. And we'll talk just briefly about these, and then we'll get to the jazz and the pop, of which there are also a lot. Starting off with the Testament, Don Quixote, Richard Strauss, with Till Spiegel, with the great Rudolf Kemper. Many people consider him the great Straussian, the greatest Straussian. This was the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra, though, and Paul Tortelier cello in Don Quixote, the cream and gold label. Testament EMI Elgar, violin concerto, Ida Handel, Adrian Bolt, great Elgarian, both of them, conducting the London Philharmonic. Postage stamp, not the world's greatest Elgar, but certainly worthy of the Dream List. This is an interesting RCA. This is an RCA Victrola. This was kind of cobbled together of Reiner performances that weren't on any particular shaded dog. And it's wonderful. It's not the best playing I've ever heard, but it's certainly good enough to get on the Dream List. And it's a wonderful recording and a wonderful pressing. This is, you can see the Victrola label. This is from Classic Records. Very interesting record. Great repertoire. Battered Bride, Carnival, Fingal's Cave, Schwanda, Polka and Fugue, I'm not sure about that one, and Salome, Dance of the Seven Veils. This is another Testament, magnificent Testament. Beethoven violin concerto, the great Leonard Cohen. I think Testament kind of put him back on the map with his Beethoven and his Brahms. They're always sold out. This is with the Paris Conservatoire Orchestra with Constantin Silvestri, highly underrated conductor, as I've been telling you for a long time. But wow, what a violinist. And this one's equal to the Oistrakh. It's got the beautiful green Columbia sax label. These reissues do their labels so beautifully. This is the best Bruckner 4 on record. This is the Klemperer Philharmonia. I've spoken about it lots. It took me a long time to find this. Even this one was a little bit warped, unfortunately. This is the Testament reissue. The semicircle, demi-lune, half moon, whatever you like to call it. Second pressing label from Columbia, EMI, HMV. Just nobody does the fourth better than Klemperer. It's got Alan Civil on principal horn. It's one of my favorite recordings of anything ever by anybody. A lovely shaded dog. This is the French Touch, Boston Symphony Orchestra, Charles Munch. Playing some lovely repertoire, including The Sorcerer's Apprentice, Sanson Umphal Spinning Wheel, which I don't know very well, a lovely Mother Goose Suite by Ravel. Just a wonderful record. Another Munch classic record, Shaded Dog. Stereo Spectacular. Saint-Saëns Symphony No. 3, the Organ Symphony with Munch and his great Boston Symphony Orchestra. Shaded Dog. This is interesting. Reiner and Mahler were not always the most perfect fit, although he did do a very good Das Lied von der Erde, which is also on Shaded Dog. I don't think it's been reissued, though. This is the Mahler Symphony No. 4 reissued classic records with Lisa Della Casa. Does she sing a little flat in the final movement of the Mahler 4? A little bit. She has a very beautiful voice, but the playing is fantastic and the recording is first class. Petrushka hasn't really fared well on record, having the greatest performances. Many of the best performances are digital and haven't been reissued on vinyl. This is a great classic records reissue, Boston Symphony Monteur. This is a gatefold. There's the great man with some microphones. Shaded Dog. If you need to put Petrushka on record, there isn't many better than this one. There's the Oscar Danon, a conductor that's kind of not heard of, really, on the Chesky, but it's about $200 on Discogs. Fabulous Heifetz on Classic Records reissue. Living stereo. This is on cloudy vinyl. This is, the Vieuxtemps, a nice concerto, lovely repertoire, but the Scottish Fantasy is a wonderful piece, and the last movement is just absolutely beautiful, and Heifetz plays the living hell out of it. I had a shootout of the Daphnis and Chloes. This is a very nice repress of the Classic Records reissue done for Analog Productions. It's absolutely superb. The famous Boston Symphony Munch recording up against the Monteur ORG reissue, which is, I think, coming up. It's a wonderful. Anyway, there's Munch, there's orchestra. Another French potpourri by Munch with the Boston Symphony. This Classic Records, famous one, Living Stereo. LSE 1984. We have Bolero, La Valse. Oh, and the best La Valse on record. Incredible. The Rhapsody Espagnole is very, very good. Not quite as good as Rhine to Chicago. And Prelude to the Afternoon of Fawn with the great Dario Anthony Dwyer playing flute. That's wonderful. Fabulous record. More Heifetz with Rhine and Chicago Symphony. This time Heifetz is playing the Tchaikovsky. Of course, it's technically flawless. The recording is so good that actually sometimes you hear some ghost notes of him hitting other strings where he should be on one string. Even the great Heifetz can get caught out by great microphone placement. LSC 2129. This is on cloudy vinyl. This is an old pressing. Old now, from the mid-90s from Classic Records. I've shown the Speaker's Corner, which is very, very good, but this is better. This is Bernie Grunman's remaster on ORG with Monteur, the LSO from Kingswood Hall. Yeah, if they're available, they're not cheap, about $200 on Disco. I've shown the Speaker's Corner pressing, which is excellent, but this is sublime by Bernie. España, 12 for Argento with the LSO, one of the most famous classical records of all time. 45 RPM, one of my all-time favorite records. One of my top 10 records, I would say. This is, again, Bernie Grunman, 45 RPM. Midsummer Night's Dream by Mendelssohn. Absolutely perfect in every way. The performance, the interpretation, the recording from Kingsway. From Esoteric, the Japanese company that there is a digital step in these very beautifully remastered analog records, but they're just amazing. I wasn't going to get this. I had memories of the Russian French horn playing very wobbly, but it wasn't as bad as I thought, and it's a fine player, beautiful artist, plays very musically. Just the sound may not be up your street. But Leningrad Philharmonic, Mavrinsky, Tchaikovsky, he did the last 3, 4, 5, and 6 for Deutsche Grammophon. Each of them are just spectacular, great playing. There's the Tulip label, redone beautifully by Esoteric. This is the final and best repressing of the Three-Cornered Hat by Defier that I have. I've got them all. I'm not an original, of course, because people kept asking me, Anthony, you've reviewed them all and you've loved them all. They're all wonderful. And the Speaker's Corner one is very good, remastered by and recut by a gentleman who, I think it's Tony Watkins, I think. He used to work for Decca, and it is very, very beautiful. Probably the best Speaker's Corner pressing that I've heard. However, this is even better, even more dynamic. Even the olays at the opening, where they have a diminuendo, you hear the O forte and the lay with a diminuendo. It's just amazing. Is this worth $100 for people who already have a recording? Yes, it is. So first, Deutsche Grammophon, the original source, that new series done by the Emil Berliner Studios. Rainier Maillard remastering and Sidney Meyer cutting. Just spectacular. And they're not all perfect, but many of them are huge improvements. I've done a video on the hits and misses. You can check that out. This is definitely a hit. This is Tchaikovsky's Symphony No. 4, Vienna Philharmonic with Claudio. Very special from the Musikverein in Vienna. The original was good. It was one of the better Deutsche Grammophones. But the reissue really brings in the beautiful sound of the Musikverein and much more dynamic. And the playing by the Vienna Phil on this is spectacular. Always one of my favorite records with that beautiful Kandinsky cover. All the pertinent information you need. And some wonderful photography. An interesting Rite of Spring, Le Siècle du Printemps, Abbado, LSO. This is from Fairfield Hall in Croydon, best hall in London. Unfortunately, it's in Croydon, which is south of London. It's not the best area, and it's hard to get to. And there's no parking. But other than that, it's great. Typical London nonsense. Anyway, this was, when it came out, nothing special. This remastering has kind of catapulted it into audiophile territory. Just superb. The performance was always wonderful, but the recording was a bit dodgy. This is great. More beauty from Claudio Abbado, this time with the Boston Symphony. And Ravel and Debussy, just exquisite in every way. And the remastering gets the hall right. They recorded in the middle of the hall, and sometimes it got a little bit boomy. But this is absolutely beautiful. The performances are benchmark. And the label and the photography, just superb. Of course, it's a numbered out of 2,500 or 2,200 on this one. Talked about this a lot. This is Seiji. He just died. Seiji Ozawa's Boston Symphony Fantastique. There are none better on record. The recording was always it was always okay, but it wasn't great. The Emil Berliner team have kind of really transported this to audiophile dreamland. So you get the fabulous playing now in a beautiful acoustic. What a conductor. This is one of my favorites, if not my favorite, Deutsche Grammophon, the original source. Having a great Beethoven 7. On the original record, it was very good, but some of the recordings sounded a little bit clipped and not very much atmosphere. This has all been reinstated by the remastering, and this is now a first-choice Beethoven 7 with the great Carlos Kleiber and Werner Fell. This is the very famous Death and Transfiguration and Four Last Songs, with Gundula Janowitz singing with Carrie Ann and the Berlin Phil. Again, the original was very good. Nothing horrible from Carrie Ann fiddling with the soundboard. Just a pretty nice recording. This, though, is spectacular. This is one of the top 2 or 3 Deutsche Grammophon, the original source so far. Very highly recommended. I just did a video on the Four Last Songs. Check it out. You can see, go into this in much greater detail. And there's Carrie Ann with Gundula. She's a wonderful soprano. But the Death and Transfiguration, there's no better played on record. And now in an audiophile recording, spectacular. 2 out of the 3 of these are on the Dream List. From the Steinberg Boston Symphony box set, there are 3 recordings. This one is very good, but it's not on the Dream List. This one is, the remastering is absolutely wonderful. The playing is spectacular, and so is Steinberg's interpretation, plus that fantastic front cover. That's a wonderful, wonderful reissue. But this one is even better. This was much anticipated to get this fantastic Hindemith record with the Symphony of the Mathis de Mahler and the concert music for strings and brass. Part of a box set. It was very expensive. Hopefully they'll reissue them individually. There's a great photograph of Steinberg there, having listening to the intonation of the Boston Symphony, which on this recording is absolutely superb. There's the information. So the Planets is fantastic. Not the best Planets on record, but certainly dreamless material. But this Hintermouth record is a dream record in every way. Fantastic repertoire, perfectly played. I mean, really, you couldn't get it better played than this, and the recording is now wonderful. A couple of chess keys now that I have not shown. This is the chess key reissue of Fritz Reiner, conducting music from Spain. I like the interesting covers. They didn't have the rights to the covers, but they got their own interesting ones. That label. And this was remastered by Jack Edelman. And they're playing Granados and Defia and Albéniz. Wonderful record. This is a great chess key. Earl Wild playing the Rachmaninoff second piano concerto with a Royal Fill and a Yasha Hornstein. Except for one clanker he makes in the very opening, which is pretty hard to hear. It's flawless and technically amazing by Earl Wild. Beautifully recorded in Kingsway Hall. This is an original. One of the top Scheherazade's, Pierre Monteur, the LSO. Absolutely beautiful. This is a 4S from Indianapolis. Magnificent. Again, the pressing matters. So if you get one of these, in a flimsy Dynaflex or White Dog, you may get a nice performance. But to get the best, you need the best pressings. And they're Indianapolis, as low a stamper as you can. This is 4S. It's amazing. Spectacular new release, recently a couple of months old, from Impex Records, from our friend A.B. Fawn and her team. This is the Heifetz Mono 1955 release, but recorded in 1950. The Lark, with music by Castelnuovo Tedesco, the Lark, the Fauré Sonata, just beautiful sonata, and a wonderful piece, hitherto unknown to me, Vitaly Chacon. It's so dramatic. At the end of the performance, you're going to be wrung out listening to it. It's so intense. And mono doesn't matter. You can play it on a stereo cartridge. It's a modern mono release. Beautiful production in every way. I'm not sure what color you call that, the dark brown or the plum or dark maroon, whichever it is. It's the RCA Victor from the mono. This is a great reissue, which we need to support to get more monos like this. I know that the team at spent about 4 years getting this ready to go. It's just an exceptional release of quality and historical significance. Beautiful French record now with L'Orchestre de Suisse Romande and Ensemble again. Debussy Nocturnes, Ravel Mamellois, again blue back, first pressing. London. Of course, charismatic, very idiomatic playing by the orchestra. Of course, the repertoire is right up Ensemble Street. This was not cheap. This was about $100 US, and the record is near mint. The cover is a little worse for wear. An interesting blue back with a very odd cartoonish cover, a wig with a metronome, but beautifully played Haydn by the Vienna Philharmonic, the Surprise Symphony, and Symphony No. 99 in E-flat, both magnificent, with the Vienna Phil and Joseph Krips. Now we get to some Weber overtures. I played most of them. They're not that difficult to play. Very, very beautifully orchestrated by Weber, an underrated composer. But it's wonderful music and beautifully played by the L'Orchestre Suisse Romande and Ensemble. This is Berlioz with fantastic repertoire that I needed. Overtures, Benvenuto Cellini, Le Corsaire, Beatrice and Benedict, and Le Carnival Romain. And it also has the Damnation of Faust for Coxey Much, which is not that difficult to play. But the four overtures, oh boy, they're very challenging. And the Paris Conservatoire Orchestra and Jean Montemont play them beautifully, very idiomatic French woodwind playing especially. Intonation, for the most part, is very good. But of course, the recording is beautifully captured by the Decca engineers. And this one, of course, is London. These are all Mercuries pressed at Indianapolis near mint. That's the only way to get Mercuries, because Mercuries tend to have pretty variable vinyl from the different pressing plants. So Mercury used a lot of different pressing plants, but get the earlier ones from Indianapolis. They're very good. These are, of course, done by the Fines, Bob Fine engineering, and Wilma Kozart Fine producing. They're just magnificent. I just did a recent video about Mercury. I hope you get a chance to watch it. This is Freddie Groffey's Grand Canyon Suite and Mississippi Suite, played by the Eastman Rochester Orchestra under Howard Hanson in a magnificent performance of a fantastic work. Please do not think of Grand Canyon Suite as light music. It's not. It's beautifully arranged, beautifully orchestrated classical music, very dynamic, very beautiful melodies, and you're not going to get better than this recording. The orchestra, basically the Rochester Philharmonic, with a few stars from the Eastman School, of which Howard Hanson was the principal, is just magnificent. I mean, just, it's an almost perfect record. Charles Ives, Three Places in New England. Lovely, tuneful Ives music, not his more complex, advanced, crazy stuff. Anyway, this is a lovely repertoire. It's mainly for the repertoire. Of course, it's a first-class recording, Mercury, first pressing, but Howard Hanson conducting the Eastman Rochester Orchestra with three composers that were trained at Eastman: Kent Kennan, Bernard Rogers, and William Bergsma. Beautiful music, beautifully played, beautifully recorded. And these are with Paul Paray and the Detroit Symphony. He's a wonderful interpreter of Schumann. The orchestrations, which can be a little bit thick, are beautifully transparent. The recording is fantastic. And the performance is just wonderful. Beautiful plum or maroon, whichever you prefer, label. Schumann 2, we're going back to front here. Again, Paray with the Detroit Symphony. The scherzo is very difficult. I've never heard an orchestra start it yet together. It's hard to bring them in. On the violins, and it's like, oh boy, here we go. It's not easy, but the Detroit Symphony play it beautifully. And equal to that playing is their playing of the Schumann Spring Symphony and also the Manfred Overture. Just a lovely symphony, beautiful melodies. Made Mr. Pearson's Superlist and Spirituals with Eastman Rochester Orchestra and Howard Hanson. Weird cover, magnificent record. Morton Gould, a very underrated composer, expert composer. And The Fall River Legend is superb performance by the orchestra. And the recording is to die for. It really is. It made Mr. Pearson's list for a reason. Highly recommended, but not cheap. This one I got for like $30. I couldn't believe it. 4-record set. Of course, the first record with all the famous parts on, and the last side with all the famous parts on, are quite worn. Only VG plus, I would say. But the inner sides are all near mint. I don't think they've been played even once. But this is the famous recording, EMI with Karajan and Elizabeth Schwarzkopf, Crystal Ludwig, Philharmonia. It's just a classic recording. Beautifully conducted, beautifully played, and more importantly, beautifully sung. There was something up with Walter Lake's production of this, and they did it in mono, and they didn't release it, and then they released it later in stereo. Anyway, I don't know. But this is the stereo version, quite plentiful on Discogs, and I got it for like $20 or $30. 4-record set. Fantastic. Another EMI. This is what's got EMI, HMV, and Angel. It's on this very special Mahler Das Lied von der Erde, Klemper's version, for a reason. If you do some research on this record, you'll understand why it got released on all three labels. I think it's the best Das Lied von der Erde on record. It certainly has the best singing, with Crystal Ludwig, magnificent, and Fritz von der Leck, who can actually sing the part, which is almost impossible to sing. With one of the loveliest labels. It's got everything. It's got that beautiful Angel label that is made in Britain. You need to get this pressing. It's not easy to come by. At $50, but you all need that record. It's one of the greatest Mahler records of all time. A wonderful Previn Shostakovich 8. Great sound. Fantastic performance by the LSO. And the recording is really wonderful. That's a must. What a great symphony. This is a Delius record with the great man himself, Sir Thomas Beecham, the Royal Philharmonic. Literally, he put Delius on the map. And all these pieces on this record, Brig Fair, which is Delius's greatest work, Song Before Sunrise, March Caprice, On Hearing the First Cuckoo in Spring, which is exquisite. All these pieces by Delius are absolutely beautiful. They're called miniatures, but they're quite dramatic. Brig Fair is really a much larger work and very dramatic. But it's not the cream and gold label. And it has Dennis Brain on it and a lot of famous soloists. If you can find that record, it's not that expensive, but it's really worth hunting down. Klemper record, Bruckner, another one of his specialties. This is Symphony No. 5. This is with the New Philharmonia. This is after they were disbanded, and he took them over. That's the man. This is a demi-lune, semicircle, half moon, whatever you like. I ordered this from Australia. It took a while to get here. It's 2 volumes. It's a magnificent performance, a great recording from Kingsway. You're actually hearing the slow movement, the Kingsway air conditioning come on. It's very, very clear. Columbia. Again, the half moon, which is a second pressing. Still, a second pressing Columbia with Clamper is still first class. This is absolutely wonderful. Beautiful performances, beautifully recorded, and a perfect Schubert coupling. Clamper, Columbia, a lovely coupling. It's got the Italian Symphony by Mendelssohn and Symphony No. 4 by Schumann, both vintage Philharmonia playing. And there's the label for the pressing. So we'll begin with jazz and a couple of independents first. This is New York tenor player Jerome Saba, his new record, Vintage. Just a wonderful record with Kenny Barron, Joe Martin, and Jonathan Blake. And it's on Sunnyside Records. And he's a wonderful new addition to the New York jazz scene. This is young Kalen Cardello, a piano student at Juilliard, jazz piano student, absolutely an amazing talent. With Rufus Reid on bass. This is a live concert on Liam Records, mastered by Bob Ludwig, and Michael Fermer was the executive producer. It's a fabulous record. And it's a live show and some nice chat. But Rufus Reid is this amazing bass player. And of course, he's presenting Kalen Cardello. Watch out for this young man. A brilliant talent, a great record. It's a digital recording, but it's mastered beautifully by Bob Ludwig. You could never tell. Fantastic record. From Original Jazz Classics from Craft Recordings, this is Bill Evans' Trio, Sunday at the Village Vanguard, Kevin Gray cut. We needed this record badly. A really well-engineered, beautifully remastered at the right price. This was an absolutely superb release this year. This is from Craft Recordings, Jazz Dispensary, Kevin Gray cut, Joe Henderson, Power to the People, with Herbie Hancock, Jack DeJohnette, Ron Carter, and Mike Lawrence, one of the tenor players I discovered this year. And just the most beautiful, soulful sound, great technique, great ideas. This is a little more modern, but not too crazy, and wonderful playing by all the group. I'm not sure there's any more copies of this record, but it's worth seeking out. An interesting record from Impex, Kevin Gray cut, Barefoot Adventure. It's Bud Shank, the great alto and flute player from the West Coast. This is not a beach blanket bingo kind of soundtrack. This is a really cool soundtrack. Mississippi Jazz, and features Gary Peacock, Dennis Budimir, Shirley Mann, Bob Cooper, Carmel Jones, Bruce Brown, and there's the great Bud Shank. Wonderful record, very interesting, beautifully played, all analog. Next, from the Analog Productions Atlantic 75 series, cut at 45 RPM. This is Blues and Roots by Charlie Mingus, cut by Ryan K. Smith, 45 RPM. Beautiful production. I think they're about $60 each. I think you can still get them. I think as FOMO has died down, the availability is there. But this is a magnificent record. Sounds like they're having a lot of fun. 3 tone poets now, all cut by Kevin Gray. This is the alto player Jackie McLean, his Demon's Dance. This is one hell of an album. It's Jackie McLean at his very best. Very musical, not too crazy. It's the Blue Note label. It's with Woody Shaw on trumpet. We all know how Woody Shaw plays, just first class in every way. If you get this album, go straight to Flugay on the second side. That's one of the best shots I've heard in a long time. And typical Blue Note production values. Also on tone poet, one of the tenor players I discovered along with Joe Henderson and Harold Land, these amazing tenor players. This is Booker Irvin, textbook tenor. A single cover, not gatefold, interestingly enough, for tone poet, but a beautiful album, beautifully produced, cut by Kevin Gray. And again with Woody Shaw on it, so it's fantastic group. Kenny Barron, of course, wonderful. And finally from Tone Poet, another Kevin Gray cut. This is the lovely musical album, I Want to Hold Your Hand by Grant Green. Isn't that a gorgeous cover? Beautiful. With Hank Mobley, Larry Young, with Grant Green on guitar, and Elvin Jones on drums. A great group. And great photography, typical Tone Poet production values. The next four are from the Blue Note Classic Vinyl Series, all cut by Kevin Gray. First one is Night Dreamer, Wayne Shorter. Everybody knows Wayne Shorter, an amazing player. This is an amazing composer. It's with Lee Morgan, Reginald Workman, Elvin Jones. Blue Note. And even though they're very expensive, wonderful production values. Kevin Gray's cut is superb. As it is on this Wayne Shorter, Speak No Evil, another superb Wayne Shorter, with Freddie Hubbard this time on trumpet, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, and Elvin Jones. Another beautiful Blue Note production. This one, also cut by Kevin Gray, is Eric Dolphy, Out to Lunch, with Freddie Hubbard, Bobby Hutcherson, the great Bobby Hutcherson on vibes, Richard Davis and Tony Williams on drums. This was recommended to me, and I thought, oh, avant-garde, maybe not. Not free jazz, just avant-garde. And it sounds like it was arranged by Debussy and played by these geniuses. It's just absolutely magnificent album. Don't let the Eric Dolphy reputation kind of throw you. First of all, he's an amazing flute player and sax player. But this is wonderful in every way. One of my favorite records from this year. And finally, one that was way overdue, Something Else, Cannonball Adderley, Miles Davis, Hank Jones, one of the greatest albums of all time. Cut by Kevin Gray. Absolutely lovely. These next two are from the Contemporary Records Acoustic Sound Series, both cut by Bernie Grunman. This is Phineas Newborn, A World of Piano. He's such a brilliant talent, so underrated, and technique to burn, and so musical. Highly recommended. And of course, it's with the contemporary labels that are so beautifully printed. And I just reviewed this one. Also, Bernie Grumman, Harold Land, the Fox, with Dupree Bolton, trumpet. Spent all his life in jail. He did 2 recordings. What a talent and what a shame. And Elmo Hope on piano, very unique, wonderful player. Herbie Lewis on bass and Frank Butler drums. That is a great album. One of the 3 tenor players I've learned about this year. Superb in every way. This is a Bernie Grunman cut. The Craft recording small batch, beautifully produced. Thelonious Monk, brilliant corners. I love the way they, sorry about the glare, I love the way they do that. There's the pull out and the information card. Beautifully done. So original mono and a great Bernie Grunman production. And for the last jazz record, more Bernie Grunman brilliance. This is the Getz Gilberto from Impex that was highly anticipated. It's as amazing as I thought it would be. Yeah, it is. It's absolutely wonderful. And the best sound you'll ever hear this recording on. And we'll start the pop with the Bernie Grunman production, an Impex One Step. This is, not sure if this will focus, yeah, Famous Blue Raincoat. And people said, well, Impex already did a really good production of it, and they did. I have it. It's wonderful. But this is better, and we replace the pressings as we get better pressings. So that's why this has made the dream list. Wonderful in every way. I know it started off as a digital recording, but it doesn't sound it. More Bernie Grunman amazing sounds on Steely Dan, Countdown to Ecstasy. This is the UH Choir from Analog Productions with all the blocks and nonsense that people complain about, but it is a lovely production. And it sounds wonderful. The internet basically went insane when this came out. The greatest recording of all time. Well, it is brilliant. There's no doubt about it. Bernie Grunman's work on this is exceptional. It is worth every penny. I think they printed off, they're printing thousands, so I think it'll be available. It's expensive, but it's highly recommended. And of course, the music is brilliant in every way. Some people were surprised I put this on the list because Animals, this is the digital record that was remastered by Bernie Grunman. It's a lovely production with some of the original prints. And of course, it has that new version of the Battersea Power Station, which I love. Animals was not a great original recording. Most Pink Floyd recordings were terrific. This one wasn't. It was muddy, even on an original one. I've heard English originals and German originals. Not good. And even worse, Canadian originals. Basically sludge. This is much better. Lots of dynamics and great drums and bass, and the vocals sound good. So highly recommended. This is a 1980 reissue from Nautilus Recordings, a Mike Reese cut. Just beautiful sound. Listen to the difference. Yes, I hadn't really... Well, I heard an original a long time ago. She has such a beautiful voice. This is a lovely album. My first Genesis recording, Selling England by the Pound. My God, I love this recording. And I love the music. Analog Productions Atlantic 75 series, cut by Chris Bellman. Beautiful artwork, 45 RPM, double LP. More words. Just superb in every way. If you get a chance, check out my review. I don't review many pop records, but I fell in love with this recording and the music and the performance. A 1971 original US first pressing, Porky Pecco. I love that. Who did the cut? Porky Pecco. I love these names. Led Zeppelin 4. And the pressing matters with these. You've got to get the good ones. And this is very dynamic. Of course, the recording and the music and the performance is incredible. And finally, an original 1979 swan song, Physical Graffiti. Exceptional music, fine recording with energetic and brilliant playing and singing by the group. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. That was a long haul, but just goes to show how many fantastic new records are being reissued in addition to some original gems I've purchased. I hope you have some already in your collection and that you use our guide for inspiration and to direct your research, listening, and purchases. The link to the Dream List will be in the description box. And something new, chapters, that should make for easier viewing on longer videos. Please watch our fun live stream every Wednesday at 5 p.m. PST on this channel. It's fun and very friendly. If you can't join us live, you can watch the rerun posted right after the stream. Please stay well, and we'll see you in the next video.